Oh, some of these guys have sinned whoppers, and they know it too, don't they? Because they see it written down. Yeah. Yeah. How does he know? How does he know? Verse 8, and again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. He's not done yet. There's a few more people he needs to cover, doesn't he? What do you think they did? Whatever it was must have been pretty serious. That they had hidden for years. And all of a sudden somebody writes something on the ground and say, oh no. Does he know? Does he know? How would he? Verse 9, the first part, then those who heard it, being convicted by their consciences, went out one by one, beginning with the oldest, even to the last. I find this interesting because of that last few words there. They all leave. But who starts leaving first? The oldest start leaving first. Why do you think that is? What is it? They got more sins, don't they? They've been living a good long time. And the longer that we live, the more really serious sin we accumulate. Is that true?
You don't know God.
And do they know God? I'm talking about the Jewish leaders, the ones, the Pharisees and scribes. Did they know God?
Their hearts are like evil.
Yes. Jesus calls them exactly what they are. Whited sepulchres. They look nice on the outside, but on the inside, they're dead. They're dead. And the older they were, the more really serious sin they had accumulated. How many people do you think that they had stoned to death? For no reason at all, just because they were mad at them. They didn't particularly like what they said. They didn't particularly like what they did. They didn't particularly like the way they looked. Or maybe they were just getting a little too uppity. Do you think that they may have stoned some innocent people? They knew. They framed them. Were they capable of doing that? Didn't they send somebody to a cross one day and kill him because they were jealous? There was no righteous reason for them to do that. Do you think Jesus is the very first person they ever killed? No. No, they killed many over the years. They threw rocks at a number of people for no reason other than they didn't like them. There was something about them that made them mad. And that was just one sin. How many do you think committed adultery? But they didn't get caught. And Sister Jean and a few other people mentioned the possibility that the reason the man's not brought in is because the man may have been indeed a scribe, a Pharisee, a member of the elite. Some Bible scholars believe that this was a setup, that they set the woman up specifically to take her in front of Jesus to trip him up. Righteous folks, aren't they? Righteous folks. Beginning with the oldest, and I think, Abby, you hit it right on the head. The older they were, the more sin they had committed in their lives. And they wanted to get out of Dodge really quick. Somebody was pointing out something to them, and they did not want all of a sudden someone to rise up off the ground and say, "You, Eli, this is what you've done." No. We're out of here. We're out of here. We're going to kill this guy. But not right now. I'm going. I don't want any names mentioned. Verse 9, the second part, and Jesus and Jesus was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. In verse 10, when Jesus had raised himself up and saw no one but the woman, he said to her, "Woman, where are those accusers of yours? Has no one condemned you?" And she answers and she says, "No one, Lord." And Jesus said to her, "Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more." There's so much going on here. But there's one thing I want to kind of hone in on real quick. Is that Jesus says, "I do not condemn you either." Or neither do I condemn you. John 3 verse 17, and we've had this a few months ago. Jesus spoke these words. "For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world." Take that to heart. Because Jesus does not condemn. He says it to the woman. He said it earlier in John 3:17. "For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved." Jesus saves. Who condemns? Let's find out. Is it Pharisees and scribes? They try, but they have no power to condemn. They're judgmental, but they have no authority to condemn anyone. Neither do you. Remember that. Don't look down your nose at anyone, no matter what they're doing, that you don't approve of. That's against the law of God. Jesus didn't come into the world to condemn anyone. He came into the world to save that person that you're trying to condemn. Stop it. It's anti-Christ. Against Christ. John 3:17, "For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved." Mark 16 verse 16. Listen very carefully. "He who believes and is baptized will be saved, but he who does not believe will be condemned." What is it that condemns a person based on this text?
Not your sins.
We
No.
condemn ourselves.
What is it?
We condemn ourselves.
By what method do we condemn ourselves?
Not asking forgiveness.
Unbelief. Notice it says, "But he who does not believe will be condemned." Non-belief condemns you. Now, does that mean that you don't believe and God's up there saying you're condemned? Is that the way it works? Let's find out. Titus 3:10 through 11. "Reject a divisive man after the first and second admonition." So I'm going to give you 2 warnings and then you're done. You're out of here. Just kidding. "Knowing that such a person is warped and sinning." Okay? So if you see somebody, and be careful with this, because it's your Christian duty to remind somebody that they may be living a lifestyle that isn't that God's not pleased with. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just be real careful with that, because sometimes you do things that displeases God too. But you have to be able to warn a person. That's your responsibility. You can't let a person go to hell because you don't want to condemn them. You don't want to judge them. That's baloney. You have to tell them. If you keep walking this path, it's not going to end up good for you. Give them your godly wisdom, okay? "Knowing that such a person is warped and sinning, being self-condemned." A person, Jesus asked the lady, "Does anybody condemn you?" "No one, Lord." They had no authority to condemn her. They wanted to condemn her to death. That's what they wanted. But their authority was not to condemn anyone to death. She didn't do anything worthy of death. She did something that was worthy of forgiveness. Go and sin no more. Go about your business. I've got nothing to hold you here. You want to follow me, you can become a disciple like the rest of them. That's fine. But what I'm saying is I'm holding nothing against you. Go now, but sin no more. Don't do that. That's not a good lifestyle. Whatever that may be. Mankind condemns himself through non-belief. That's it. The only people that are ever going to hell, or the lake of fire, whatever you want to call it, are those who do not believe. That is a choice. If you choose to go to hell, that's yourself condemning yourself. God doesn't condemn you. Jesus doesn't condemn you. You condemn you. I want to defy God. I do not want to follow His law. I do not want to honor and worship Him. I do not believe in Jesus Christ, and therefore I'm going to hell. That's my choice. Well, yes, it is.